Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Running Effect podcast. Before we hop into today's episode, a quick note that it is brought to you by Mount to Coast, a brand new running shoe brand on the market that I have greatly appreciated using in training over the past few weeks, specifically this R1 model. They have many models, but the R1 is probably my favorite one that I've tried thus far. And what's nice about it is you feel like you have enough cushion and protection where running feels effortless, but you don't want to sacrifice weight for the amount of cushion. What's nice about the R1 is there's a lot of foam and stability and support so that your legs don't feel beat up, but it's also not that heavy. And so it's a smooth, seamless ride. Specifically, if you're looking this fall for a new training shoe for cross country or marathons or ultra marathons, if you want to try out the R1 or a different model of Mount to Coast shoes, you guys can use the code THERUNNINGEFFECT for 10% off. And their website is very easy to remember. It is simply mounttocoast.com. I hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation of the podcast.
Having somebody out there to break collegiate records with is like an unreal experience, and we're definitely the best duo to ever do it. So
there we go. I need that from
Ethan. Come on. You know, different events, different workouts, different timelines with everything, but in the end, still matched up and had a really, really cool last year of competing together, training together. So there's not a feeling like it. It was really cool.
That was Parker Wolfe today on the Running Effect podcast, back for his probably fourth or fifth appearance at this point. Parker recently graduated from the University of North Carolina, where he was an NCAA champion and one of the most decorated athletes to ever come through the NCAA, in my opinion, based on his performances, not just through championships, but specifically the times he ran and the ways he embodied himself in racing. I feel like have not been seen in quite some time in the sport. Parker has had a year filled with setbacks and disappointment at times, but reframing it and realizing the situation, Parker has grown immensely through how he has handled this adversity. And that was one of my favorite parts of today's conversation, Parker recapping a lot of the injuries of this past year and how he mentally and physically rebounded and bounced back. Specifically, recently, he placed sixth at the U.S. Championships in the 5K after only 6 weeks of running. Yes, you heard that right. He is absolutely remarkable. He's in his next chapter of the life and sport as he has signed a professional contract with Nike and Nike Swoosh Track Club based out of Flagstaff, Arizona, being coached by Coach Mike Smith, who formerly coached Northern Arizona University to their greatness. And he's teammates with his former teammate, Ethan Strand, who's also been on the podcast with Parker in the past. Today's conversation, we dive from everything present, future, past. We dive into the wisdom, the career, the training, the mindset, all of that with Parker. Always love my conversations with him. If you guys do as well, give us a 5-star review. It'll take 5 seconds. Hit the follow button so you don't miss more episodes like this in the future. And my last request, share it with a friend. Word of mouth marketing is the easiest way in which we can grow. And with all those notes aside, enjoy this conversation with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Parker Wolfe. Ladies and gentlemen, he's back, this time with a pro contract to his name, a new city, a new car, as I found out a few minutes ago. The man of the hour, Parker Wolfe. How you doing, man?
Dude, good. It's good to be back. It's been a while.
We can't let Ethan have all the clout, okay? We had to get you back on as well. How's Flag treating you? Just moved.
It's great, man. Loving it here. Weather's starting to get a little better. Finally, it was a little hot. It's no Chapel Hill this time of year. Like, at least there's no humidity. But no, it's been a great transition so far. I'm loving it.
You grew up in Colorado around elevation, so I think you're pretty qualified to answer this question. What's your take on the debate of like humidity being on the same level playing field as altitude, like hot and humid being on the same level playing field?
I think for me, I would prefer altitude. Like, I think...
really?
Yeah, humidity, dude. Humidity's hard. I like training, like August, September in Chapel Hill is some of the hardest training I've ever done. So I'm on the wave that like humidity's harder to run every day in than altitude. Maybe that's just because I'm from altitude, but yeah, it's no fun, man. At least up here, I can like come home from a run and not be like soaked, like completely full of sweat. So...
Hey, they call it poor man's altitude for a reason. So
seriously, they do.
Yeah. I think part of the hard thing about humidity, like you said, is you are it's like you're losing literally pounds of weight
Yeah,
at a point
literally.
if you're like on a long run. And so I feel like the heat exhaustion really carries itself throughout those runs.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I
You're
think
like a
it's
different
miserable.
individual, mile 10 versus mile one, whereas altitude, you're probably pretty similar. I mean, I've never ran at altitude, so, but I feel like it'd
It's
probably be similar all the way through.
it's definitely different, and I think it takes some adjusting. Especially like easy runs, you're just gonna feel a little uncomfortable. But I think for the most part, like once you get used to altitude, it's not that bad. Yeah.
How much higher is Flag than where you grew up in Colorado?
So my house in Colorado is like 5,500 feet. And then my house up here is at like 7,000, 7,100. So, 1,500 feet different. So it's definitely different. It's definitely higher. You wouldn't tell by the temperature. I mean, it's still hot up here. We're in Arizona. Like it's definitely warm, but it's definitely an adjustment. Like it took a couple days to really like get into feeling 7,000 feet versus Denver altitude.
What's the biggest distinctive mark of altitude? Like when you'd come back home and you'd do runs after being sea level for a few months, like do you feel it in your lungs? Do you find it hard to sleep?
Definitely like when I go, if I'm home in Denver, like sometimes I go up to 9,000 feet, especially when I was younger at ski up there. And like sleeping, definitely you notice. At five, like coming from Chapel Hill back home to Denver is not a huge difference. I think that I guess the day three is like the hardest day at altitude, and so the third day sometimes I'll like notice it a little bit, but I'm kind of prepared for it just because I've been to and from altitude so much. So yeah, I think just making sure you're hydrating because headaches. I notice that a lot too. Like you just get headaches quickly.
Really?
Yeah, I get headaches if I don't drink enough water. First, like sea level, if you don't drink enough water, you're gonna be all right. But up here, you got to be like very cognizant of that. So.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mentioned this in the beginning, but new group, new coach, uh, same sponsor, different sponsorship, NIL to pro. Take
Yeah.
people through a lot of these changes and how excited you are for this next chapter.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, it was definitely a process. There was a lot of, I mean, luckily we're coming out at a time where there's a lot of good brands that have a lot of good groups. And so we definitely sought a lot of options. But in the end, the trust that Coach Milt has with Coach Smith, and then the trust that Nike gave in us with that NIL, it felt like the right decision. It definitely was a hard one, but I think it was, so far, I think it's a great one. And you got to level up. And I think if we talked about staying with Milton Chapel Hill, it would have been tough to find guys that are running 12:45 in the 5K like Nico is up here. And so for me, it's my biggest thing was like finding guys that are going to push me in different ways. And the group they have up here, there's an array of people that can push you. I mean, Nico runs 12:45 in the 5K. Like he's going to push you on every aerobic day, and then you can go down and do speed stuff with Donovan Brazier, who runs like 10 seconds for 100 in practice, and you're like, I can't ever do that. So it's the perfect combination of training partners, a coach I trust, and like Flag is one of the best places in the world to train. And so it was kind of a no brainer in the end of like, if I want to get better and level up, this is where I go.
Will it be rewarding after years of having your ass handed to you in speed workouts by Strand to see his ass being handed to him by Brazier if they ever link up?
Man, when they link up, it's gonna be great. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it happen. He can finally feel my pain. He'll get it. No, it'll be awesome. I think it's gonna be great for Ethan to have somebody that like can push him on that end because he's never had that, at least in college. So, yeah, it's awesome, man. To have like just this like range of distances that we cover, just from the guys here, and so it's you'll never have a workout where you're not like having a workout partner that's gonna push you. So it's awesome.
I feel like when you got into college and you were kind of a high schooler fan of the sport, the pro world was so simple and it was like you had your few options.
Right,
It was like Bowerman was really the prominent one, and then you kind of had Oregon Track Club, and you maybe had like a few other things here or there back in the day. You had the Oregon Project.
right,
Northern Arizona Elite was really only a marathon group. It was just way
right.
more kind of cut and dry. You could predict
Yeah.
where people are going. This year, it's like total chaos with I don't even know how many pro groups we're up to
Right.
across the U.S.
Yeah.
What was your kind of perspective on, growing up in the sport and kind of knowing how simple the sport was to now where it is kind of complex. And I don't say that as bad or good, just kind of the reality of the
Right.
sport.
No, I always said to Coach Milt, when I was going through this process, I was like, man, I envy like Grant and Sean, where there was like one option. It was like you go to Bowerman or you don't go anywhere, because they don't have to make a decision. You know, it was easy. Us now, like there are decisions. I think it's awesome. There's way more opportunity in the sport, to be in a good situation. I think back then it was like you go to Nike and have a good situation, or you're kind of on your own and trying to figure it out. And now there's a lot of groups that take care of their athletes, different brands that set up our athletes. So I think it makes the U.S. better in terms of like running. I think, I mean, just being here, like you see a bunch of people at the track from different brands. And that's, I think it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, you've seen across the board at USA is how much better the U.S. got this year, even just over the last year. And I think that's definitely part of it, is that these brands are really investing, making these groups and making it hard for guys like us, Ethan and I, to make a decision, because there's so many good options. So I think it's, I did obviously envy like the guys who just like, bam, this is the only decision. They don't have to think about it. It was like, yep, you're going to Bowerman or you don't go anywhere. But I also think this is how you level up the sport. You got to have options. I mean, there's 32 NFL teams to choose from, right? Like everybody's getting good. So it's a similar idea of like, you've got a bunch of different brands investing, and I think it's just going to level everybody up.
In regards to, you mentioned NFL companies, or NFL companies, I guess they're companies, NFL teams. It reminded me of my conversation with Drew Bosley. And I basically said, as we were kind of going through the roster, because I didn't know until he told me that Brazier was on the team, and just the range from like Brazier to Rupp and then all the college studs. I was like, if you did 3 years ago a fantasy college cross country team, and you had Parker, you had Ethan, you had Nico, you had Drew, you had Liam, you had Abdi Hamid, like you'd feel pretty damn good about your chances about your team. Does it feel kind of fun that you guys kind of have created this super team?
I mean, yeah, I think it's really cool. Like, and I think the cool part is it almost feels like how I felt going into college. Like UNC was new. Like Milt was new to the program, and we kind of starting from not having anything to like any history of being good, and we're trying to build this team. And it feels very similar. Like I'm right at the start of this, and so it's super exciting. I mean, the personnel we have here are more than you'd ever need to get really really good at the sport. And I think that's like what you need. You need guys to push you. That was the main reason that Coach Milt didn't think it was best for us to stay, because we couldn't find that extra edge of having teammates push you every day. And so I think it is really cool. Like thinking back to the last freshman me, thinking of imagine having Luis Grijalva, Donovan, like all these guys, and we're all on a team together. It's pretty sweet. Like it's a really cool thing to think about. It's definitely like that fantasy football vibe. Like we're trying to assemble the Avengers here, and make a really cool team. So it's awesome.
I forget if it's the second Saturday or third Saturday, but how exciting will that NCAA cross meet be come November? Watching with the boys, so many distinct teams and banter.
Oh, dude, it's definitely gonna be cool. I miss it so much. I mean, already hearing Coach Milt and seeing the guys talking about cross country and getting geared up for cross country, I'm so gonna miss it. I think that's the one thing you don't get as a pro as much, is that cross country like team mentality. So we're definitely gonna be tuning in. NAU versus UNC rivalry still gonna be a thing. So no, it's gonna be awesome, and hopefully we get which talks about us trying to get down for USA Cross, and so hopefully that comes to fruition, because I'd love to run some cross country.
What saddens me, I have up on my phone a Diastat, like the rankings. They came out today, and look, I get flame all the time, but the beauty of having your own podcast, Parker, is you really can say whatever you want. So if people want to be mad at me, they can be mad at me. I'm like, because I was saying this to Drew, it's just like seeing Iowa State's ranked 1, New Mexico's ranked 2, Oklahoma State's 3. I think we all know why it's in that order. It's just sad that the dynasty of like I grew up with NAU winning every year, and I thought it was pretty cool, to be honest. And I wasn't like a NAU fanboy, but I did appreciate that level of dominance. And I feel like you left NCAA honestly the NCAA at the perfect time, because I don't think it's going to be the same in 5 years.
It's definitely changing, man. It's definitely changing, and I think there's some pros and cons to it. I think coaches are being like it's definitely a little different of a coaching landscape more than anything. But I also think they, all these international guys coming in is why we got better, and why the USA as a whole is looking a lot better, especially on the distance side where we've lacked for years and years. And so I definitely am glad to be out of the NCAA. I think it's definitely it's definitely a different landscape seeing those teams kind of at the front again, with a lot of international recruiting. But I mean, I also think that it, pushes everybody to get better. I definitely, there's definitely, a balance there. And I think there should be regulations and rules as to how this all works. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a changing landscape. And yeah, I'm glad I'm moving into the pro world for sure.
No roster cuts to deal with, although you would have never been affected by that.
That's true.
But it is crazy. It feels like every year a massive thing happens in the sport, and then just the NCAA as a whole. I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'll use this as an opportunity to hate on Michigan. I don't know if you follow college football, but basically they proved that they cheated their way to the national title, and all they get is a $20 million ban, which for an institution
Right.
that's worth
Right.
hundreds of millions is like pennies on the dollar. And
Yeah.
it's like, what are we doing here? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I am curious across all sports just how much kind of the professionalization of every single sport will kind of translate, because it's like
Right.
you look at USA's this year and the amount of college kids who made teams, it's like, is there, including Ethan, is there that
Right.
much of a difference between the NCAA and the pro world at this point? Like, not really.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's cool to see like these NCAA people. I mean, across all the events, high schoolers, given the pros run for their money. I just think, yeah, I think training and coaching has developed over the last years, and like I know Coach Mill would say this compared to back when he was coaching Grant and Sean, like how much different our training is. And I think it's we can handle more, we can do more, and I think people are just like going all in on this earlier on. So it's cool to see. It really is. And I mean, seeing guys like Ethan and I guess our new teammate Maggie, who just is also she finished up college. She made the 100 team. Like it's pretty sweet. Like it's cool to see like we can hang with these guys. And I know we're going to get a lot better moving into this world where we have more time and no classes. So.
What was I going to say to that? Because I had a thought and then I forgot it, because you mentioned Maggie and she actually was just on the podcast, and that episode will be out when this one comes out. Oh gosh, I don't know. Just the sport is crazy. And I think I'm just so curious. Like, I'm curious to get your take on this. If you think that one day times will be thrown out the window. I think I asked Ethan this a while back, because it's like, kids are getting so fast to the point where a 340 mile being normalized is probably going to happen, I feel like, in our lifetime. And it's like, at a point, do you think we'll only care about championships and winning, or do you think we'll still care about times? Like, if 12:30 becomes normal for the 5K, will people still care that it's 12:30?
Right.
No.
Man, that's an interesting question, because I think our sport has gotten so focused around the times that sometimes people forget about the racing part of it all. I mean, you see every year at USA's, guys show up with these crazy PRs. Like, this guy should make the team. He's run 12:40 or 3:43 in the mile. Like, and then they don't, and they're not even there, or they're off the back. So I think. I mean, it's great that we're running faster. I think it's really cool running fast times, but I also think it's all about championship racing. And that's where it all comes down to. Like, the winning an Olympic medal never goes away. Like, people will break records here and there, but the Olympic medalist is always here to stay. And so I think keeping that the main focus is going to be so important, as I guess timeflation is what they call it. Like, as these times keep dropping, man, like, just the main focus is winning races. And with that gets you a fast time, it gets you a fast time. And I think that's how, people can beat a lot of others who focus on the very small time PRs, whatever it is. So
I'm remembering what I was going to say before, which was like,
yeah.
I remember Grant and Sean's era, 13:30 was like, if you ran that at the Stanford invite, you were like a stud. It was like, you ran 13:30. And now I feel like you got to be able to close in 13:30 to be competitive. in a 10K
Yeah.
at the NCAA level. So
Yeah.
it is
That's
crazy.
crazy.
But I mean, in some defense, if it was just the same every single year, the sport would get really boring and stagnant. And so the fact
I
that we
agree.
have these storylines to talk about consistently, I think makes the sport, super exciting. So, and I think it's cool too. Like for me growing up in the sport, I think when I started getting into it, you were probably towards the end of your high school career, and to see people
Yeah.
like you go pro, it's like I feel like younger fans are really starting to become like super fans because now they've been in the sport long
Right.
enough. And I think Gen Z is just going to, decide what sports are popularized and which aren't. And I do
Yeah.
think Gen Z runners are like a little too passionate sometimes. But I think that bodes well for the future popularity of the sport.
Dude,
So
I really hope so, man. I think track and field, like when I'm done running, I am going to be a track and field fan for life. And so I really hope like it gains more popularity over these next years. And I think with how times are progressing, how fast people are running, like I think it's I hope it gains more traction because it's a sport you put in a lot of work, and in the history hasn't gotten a ton of support, and so I definitely think we're getting more. I hope that's the case, and I think you're right. I hope Gen Z is in charge of getting the sport popular and watched, and because I love it. I love it.
recapping some of the past year, I know there's a ton to unpack, a ton to get into. How would you? Well, let's do it in one word. One word, if you could describe the past year, 365 days.
Oh, yeah, extremely difficult. Difficult, I guess, would be one word. It definitely, I would say there are. I mean, everybody, they say you're supposed to really learn from your setbacks, and I definitely think I learned a ton from this year, and I think there are things I'm going to use from this year that I wouldn't have learned if I didn't have these setbacks. But I also think that just some things happen and you just can't do anything about it, and it sucks, and it's just gonna sting for a while, but it's just how you react to it, respond to it, move forward. Yeah, it's been a tough year. I mean, I don't think I had a season I had full traction getting through, and it's not a lot of fun. It isn't, but I also know what I'm capable of, and so that's why I keep pushing forward every day and showing up every day to practice, because I know I can be really good, and even with these setbacks, they're all learning experiences that are going to be valuable at some point. So
What's crazy about the sport is it's unforgiving and it's unpredictable. And when you're on the top, you don't know if it'll continue for 5 more years or if you'll have one of the hardest seasons of your career. I think in your
yeah,
case, you were on absolutely on top of the world. You won the 5K. A lot of people think you couldn't have. I made the prediction that I thought you would have beaten Nico, who's now your teammate. But so
let's
that was
go.
awesome to see. Like, I think that was an incredible race. And then people were like, he's got an outside shot at making the team. I'll say he made the team if the rules were
Yeah,
better. Unfortunately, as weird
yep,
rules are, which I can't even. That's a big problem with our sport. I literally
yeah,
don't know how you didn't make it. You don't
yeah.
make the Olympic team. So I feel like that was the first card to fall, and then all the setbacks and injuries. Was that surprising to you at all? Of just like you were totally on top of the world, and I'm sure you think I'm going to come back.
Yeah,
I want to win on the grass. I want to win 3K, 5K indoor. I want to win
absolutely.
5K, 10K outdoor. Was it hard as those pieces started to seem like, okay, this isn't going to happen anymore?
Extremely. Yeah. I mean, my big goal coming off of last year was like I didn't want to be that guy that won just one NCAA title. I wanted multiple. Um, but obviously, like you said, it's an unpredictable sport. It's very unforgiving, and so you just got to learn to roll with the punches. I mean, I was really hoping I'd have a very. I mean, I think I've been in this running since I was in like seventh grade, and I've never had an injury in my life. Been completely healthy since I started, and so this was 3 injuries in a row this year that took me out for multiple weeks, and yeah, I mean, it was extremely tough. I mean, especially the first one in the fall, hurting my foot after nutty comb. Like it was definitely like the hardest thing I had to do because it was the first one. I'd never had this happen before. Luckily, I was able to work it out and be back for the end of the season and really help out the team. But it definitely took some, I guess, refocusing and finding out new challenges. I knew I couldn't win the title, but I was going to do the best I could for my team. with my setbacks. And so it's just about, reshaping it. And, if you get a setback, it's like, don't be completely delusional, I think was where I was at. Like, I knew I had a slight chance of being able to be in that top like 3, but I just had to refocus and say, like, this is for the team. I'm going to go be in that top 10 and see what I can do. And so that was the biggest learning experience from that this year, was just like, finding a new way, new goals after a setback that, you can still reach, that aren't, these like crazy, like you're not going to go get hurt and then go win the Olympic medal a week later. So it's just like kind of shifting, those goals and finding a new way to I guess process them. So
I know you and Milt and Ian are very reflective people. When you looked back at, your season across indoor, outdoor, where do you feel like you guys went wrong? Or do you think it was genuinely just like bad luck? Kind of, you don't know really what happened.
yeah. I mean, I'll walk you through like the injuries I had this year. So in the fall, hurt my foot. Came back, ran a really good race in December with Ethan, where he broke the collegiate record in the 3K. And then when I went home that winter to kind of reset, had a small reaction in my femur that took me out for a few weeks of indoor, and I only made it back for ACCs and nationals. And then in the after ACCs and the outdoor season, had another foot injury on the same foot that took me out for a couple weeks and missed NCAAs and all that. So I don't think we went wrong anywhere. I definitely take a lot of credit, and I'd like to figure out why these things happen. So I learned a lot, especially my one in the winter, just learning how to fuel correctly and, make sure you're eating enough to maintain your training load. Really getting into like, the full like fueling side of things that I think we were behind on. At least I was. And so, I mean, I obviously I don't want to get injured, but I learned so much from that one in the fall and the winter that like I don't think I would have learned otherwise. And I think that's invaluable for sure. And I don't think we went wrong in there. I think the combination of underfueling and we had to get back for cross season after what happened then, and so it definitely, we had to make jumps to get back for the team, and I don't regret any of that at all. I'd rather try to get back and help my team out the best way I can than, kind of baby something getting back and not be there when I needed to be. So, but yeah, I'd like to take a lot of blame for all the things that happened. I mean, obviously some of them are fluke, like things with my feet. I definitely, I don't know how they happened. I just, need to figure out, strengthening protocols and stuff like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say we went wrong anywhere. I think it was all just like, obviously I had to learn some things. And I think things just happen because they happen. And you just kind of have to find, little pieces of what you can learn from it. Even if the whole thing seems like a fluke and weird and doesn't make any sense. And in the moment, you don't feel like you can take anything from it. I think it's just finding little bits and pieces that you can use to move forward so it doesn't happen again. So.
That's great wisdom, great perspective there. Do you almost feel like a sense of gratitude in the sense of how much you grew from this past year because it really tested your ability to handle adversity versus if you would have just gone out and won a bunch of NCAA titles, would have looked great on a resume and great, for your career, but maybe you wouldn't have learned anything because it just would have been what you were expecting almost.
No, for sure. I mean, Alex Sosberg, as you know him, he's full of wisdom, but he always said that if you were to make like the perfect professional runner, he would give him 2 to 3 injuries in his college career. Not because anybody wants injuries, but you learn so many valuable things during that you can't learn otherwise. You have to deal with setbacks, and so I definitely am like I said, I learned so much, especially from my injury in the winter of like things I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So I definitely think it's like obviously it's easy to run fast and be confident running fast when you're on top of the world. Like coming off last year racing was easy. Like I mean, obviously not easy, but easier. Like it's every day you're excited to get going, and this is like you're just getting beat down after beat down after beat down, and it just feels like there's no end. And I think you can't learn these lessons anywhere else. And so I'm definitely like looking back, I'm happy that not happy that they happened, but I'm glad I learned these lessons from them. So that as I move into the pro world, like I can really like use this as fuel, as teachings from it, and just be a better runner overall. So,
What do you feel like is the biggest lesson, or one of the biggest lessons you feel like you learned about yourself this past year that you weren't expecting to learn about yourself?
yeah, I think I learned a lot about what I'm capable of doing when things aren't going perfectly. I mean, we always talked about that, and I know Milt talks about that a lot. Is just like being able to be your best version on the line, even if you're not 100%. And I think I learned that big time. What I can do with very little training, off of very not impressive workouts, and like I mean, biggest one to me was in December with Ethan being able to run 7:30 off of 4 weeks of training. Like it was mind opening to me, what I can do. And so it's like, you know, if I can handle this year, I can handle anything. I mean, obviously it wasn't the year I wanted, but I was still able to fight and compete with some of the best in the country, with the little training and preparation I had. And so I'm super thankful for that. And it's a lesson I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So
I always think a lot of times you can tell the ceiling of an athlete by what they do in unideal conditions. Because I had Jane Hedegren on the podcast after she won NXN last year,
yeah,
and it was like dumping rain, like some of the worst conditions I've ever seen for a national meet. And she set the course record and won by like
yeah,
45 seconds. And so I'm expecting to get on a podcast with her and hear
right,
about how she had the perfect training block. She's like, I've barely been healthy. I
yeah,
like have only strung together a few workouts. And I was like, oh my gosh, if she can stay healthy, we're about to witness the most insane track season.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
she stays healthy and she goes 14:57, I think like
unreal,
4:24,
yeah,
9:17. She basically set collegiate records in high school races. And I was like, okay. So I kind of feel the same way with you, where it's like you play 6 at USA's off of 6 weeks of running, right? And it's like, that's, you
yeah,
got to think future years. Like, yeah, nothing's
right,
promised to me, but gosh, I'm excited when I'm healthy and things are clicking. Like my
yeah.
ceiling is very high.
Oh, extremely, man. That's and it took me a while to kind of get there. And obviously, like as the person I am, I'm super competitive, and so sixth place to me was like devastating, even off of what I had been doing. But Coach Milt was really good with that. Of just like, man, like if you can do this off of 6 weeks, like give it a year training with some of the best in the world, like we're gonna be all right. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely gives you a little confidence that like I can still hang with these guys until 50 to go, off of 6 weeks of training. And I think that's yeah, I draw some confidence from that, even though it's sometimes hard to, but I definitely draw some confidence from that for sure.
I'm sure part of you enjoys the pressure because it shows, if you're having pressure, you're worthy of certain accomplishments or certain titles. But is there part of you that like enjoyed kind of taking a back seat this past year in terms of like, you're going into this rookie year with less expectation rather than
Oh yeah,
if you had
yeah,
won 5 NCAA
right,
titles, people would be talking about you every single day.
yeah. I mean, for sure, dude. It's I mean, we always say, you race best when you're the hunter and not the hunted. And so I'm definitely the hunter right now, and it's a good place for me to be. I think that's where I race best. But also, I love the pressure. I eat it up. Like that's why I do this sport. Pressure is definitely a privilege. And I mean, obviously, I'd love to have won every NCAA title and broke every record. But also, it's great. Like going in to my rookie year, and there's not a lot of expectation, definitely at all from this. And there was a lot of setbacks and a lot of things I wasn't happy with, and kind of under the radar right now, which is a great place for me to be. So I'm pumped for it.
You crush the double at ACCs, and then I think you get injured in the aftermath, and then you have to make the hard decision with your coaches to scratch from regionals, kind of ending
Mhm.
your eligibility in time at the University of North Carolina. Was that, do you feel like the most emotional injury in terms of, because you knew it was kind of your final chapter at UNC? And can you take me into some of those emotions?
Yeah, yeah, that one definitely stung a lot. I mean, each one is stung in its own way. But I'd say that was a tough one. I felt like I was really getting back onto track after the winter and the spring, and really coming in the outdoors. I started to feel like myself, especially at ACCs. I was really starting to feel like myself again, racing, training, all that. So it definitely sucked, coming back and making the hard decision not to finish out when I thought I had a very good shot of at least giving it a go for another title, which would have been great. But life has different plans, and I think everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. So it was definitely super emotional. I mean, especially with Coach Mill, I really wanted to finish out the season strong with him and give it a go one more time, and especially just for the team title as well. Like we had some guys make the meet and throwers, Ethan. Like we had a shot at doing well as a team, and so that honestly was the most disappointing to me that I couldn't be there to put some points on the board for our guys. I think that definitely stunk. But there's a silver line to everything. At regionals, I watched Colton make the meet, and that was huge. Like I'm glad he did that. I thought it would have been cool to have all three of us there, but at least he made it. I texted him the night before, like, dude, if you don't make this national meet, I'm gonna kill you. Like you better make this team if I'm not there. So luckily he did great. So it was silver linings in it. Super excited to see my teammates compete, but it definitely stung to kind of miss out on like a closing finale of college for sure.
What were the emotions with leaving the program? You were obviously one of the first recruits in the Milt era. You were one of the biggest reason, if not the biggest reason, behind kind of the growth and evolution of the program, at least from an athletic perspective. Obviously Milt on the coaching end. What was it like kind of passing on the torch to other guys, and what were those final interactions and moments and practices like with the guys?
Yeah, it was, it was a lot of Coach Milt trying to, get the guys fired up that Ethan and I aren't going to be here next year. And somebody's got to take the torch and carry this on the way we did as freshmen. So it's a lot of, it's definitely emotional, but I know Coach Milt, this is what he does best is really firing up the guys to do this. And so it was relieving to I feel like we're leaving UNC in a good place with good guys that were there when we were seniors, and I think these younger guys are going to be really, really good. So I think we're leaving it in a good spot. It's definitely a little scary that I feel like all the older guys that made UNC what it is are kind of gone. But I think I think Ethan and I we did our best to get the team where it is, and I know that we're leaving it off with at least people who are capable. And I think they can really keep the program a super competitive, high level team for sure.
I think I asked Ethan this question. I compared him and you to Cole Hawker and Cooper Tier and asked who was the better collegiate duo. I won't ask you for that comparison, but in terms of what you feel you and Ethan did this past year and just kind of in recent memory, where do you think you roughly rank in terms of NCAA great duos, or even just more generally, how cool was it to, it's fun when you have success individually. It's more fun when you're doing it with a teammate and you're doing it in different events. How cool was that?
Oh, it's so cool, man. It's the coolest feeling ever. I remember my sophomore year telling Milt, like, I really want somebody else, like, really performing at this high. Like, I want somebody to be pushing up on that barrier. Because it felt like, at least for the first year, I kind of felt like I was doing a lot of this, not alone, but, I was making national meets and I was the only one there. Maybe another older guy. So to have somebody doing it at a high level with me was really cool. I mean, I wish I could have been, a little more consistent and really out there with him every single race. But having somebody out there to break collegiate records with is like an unreal experience, and we're definitely the best duo to ever do it. So
there we go. I need that from Ethan.
Come on,
you wouldn't give it to me.
No, I think it was something I didn't ever think we'd do as like freshmen, but it was a really cool experience. Like, I mean, we both came up in the system together. We both, different events, different workouts, different, timelines with everything, but in the end still matched up and had a really, really cool last year of competing together, training together. So, there's not a feeling like it. It was really cool.
I think you said you ran 7:30 off of 4 weeks of training roughly, or something around that. What is more impressive to you yourself, running 7:30 off of 4 weeks, or placing sixth in the country in one of the most stacked 5Ks we've ever seen off of 6 weeks of training?
Yeah, I was definitely, I think the most difficult was this last USA's. I think in the fall I had 3 years of lead up and build up of consistent training, and so the couple weeks I had to take off, like I was able to get back really, really quickly. And And I think that getting back to running 7:30, I think was a little bit less challenging just because of all the consistency I had years before. Whereas this last sixth place was definitely a year of setbacks, and then now having to go try to race against the nation's best. I was definitely not happier with it, but I think it was definitely a little bit harder for me to go and compete at this just off of. I mean, I missed 3 full weeks of running, and then had 6 weeks of. I started running on the ground. I think it was literally like 6.5 weeks before USA's was my first run on the ground, and so I definitely, after not having consistent training, it was definitely a more difficult place for me to be, having to cross train and jog to try to get back to running, and then finally getting back to mileage. And so it was definitely, I'd say, a little bit more difficult to pull up to USA's this year off of the training I did, just based on how the year went. There wasn't as much consistency to back up what I had. So
You said you're a competitor, and so at first you weren't as happy with your USA's performance before talking to Milt. At what point did that maybe shift to, okay, I obviously want to make teams, I want to perform against the best in the US, but given the greater context of the past year and the fact that there were probably moments where you doubted you'd even show up on the start line, it was overall a win and just an indication of what you can do in the years to come.
yeah, it was definitely, for some reason, this race took a lot longer for me to get over. Usually it's like a bad race, you got 24 hours, you kind of snap out of it, and you're on to the next thing. This one definitely kind of sat with me a little more so. I thought I definitely did. I thought I had a chance to make a team, and I think the way the race went out was the one thing we hadn't done. We were ready for a hard, long push from a mile out. We were ready for a fast race. We hadn't done much in the 6 weeks that showed I could sprint the last lap, and so it definitely sat with me for a while because I thought I really had a shot at making a team, even off of what I had to do training wise. But it took probably a good week of trying to find the light and the good things and the positives from the race, and a lot of that was Coach Milt telling me the positives, and that's something I really appreciate from him, is that he will never BS me. He'll never tell me something that's not true.
Sugarcoat
He'll never sugarcoat it, right? He'll if you have a bad race, he'll let you know. So that was a big part of this, coming off this race, was just, and this year as a whole. I mean, I was disappointed with a lot of races this year, and having Milt there to tell me that it's gonna be all right, pull the positives from each race, and I know he wasn't lying to me. So it took a little longer than I thought, but it definitely came around, and now I'm in a really good spot training wise. Shout out getting ready for Fifth Avenue Mile. So gonna do that, and I think without how USA's went, I wouldn't be as fired up to keep training right now and keep going. So it's definitely, it's a thing of the past. Definitely disappointed with it, but we're moving on. We're learning from it.
What's a favorite memory from UNC on the track or on the grass in a race, and favorite moment from UNC off the track, off the grass, not a race?
I think placing 6th this year in cross country as a team was probably my favorite total moment on grass track, because of just the team we had. It was pretty much all what we call homegrown UNC guys that have been there since freshman year, and that was a really cool moment. I think if you looked on paper, we were not supposed to get 6th. We were definitely predicted, I think, 8th at best, 8th or 9th at best. So for us to come 6th was super. I mean, we were thrilled. I mean, the year before at UVA, we came 6th as well, but we were very disappointed with that. We had some transfers come in that we were really excited about, and we thought we could really get in that top 5. And this year it was let's hope we can crack that top 10. So that was a really cool moment to share with all the guys that had been there for 5 years, 6 years sometimes. I mean, everybody's got eligibility, so some of these old guys, they had been there a while, but that was a really cool moment to share with everyone. Off the track, favorite moment, I'd say one of the coolest moments was watching the Final Four game against Duke, with UNC and Duke my freshman year, when we beat them in the Final Four. That was pretty sweet. As a normal college, we don't get, as runners, there's not a lot of normal college moments we have, and so that was up there. Still with the team, everybody's at the house watching, and it felt like a team experience, even though it wasn't our team and it wasn't running, but it was still a sweet moment. Yeah, nothing better than beating Coach K in his last game. So,
if UNC pulled the best 5 guys on their cross team to make a basketball team, how do you think you guys would have fared against other cross teams in basketball?
Horrible, really bad.
Really?
Oof. We had one guy who, shout out Michael Spragley. He actually is pretty good at basketball. He can dunk. He's pretty tall too. So, he would be about all we had in terms of any talent on the court. I don't think anyone else in our team can play really. Maybe one or two other guys could shoot, but yeah, not good, man. We're not a tall team. We're not a coordinated team. That's why we chose running. So, but maybe against other teams would do all right. I don't know. Not great, I don't think.
Final serious question for you, Parker. For those who have listened, what would you say to someone listening who's in like May Parker Wolfe, where they just got dealt bad news, bad deck of cards, they're in the dumps, they need some inspiration? What would you say to them?
Man, just take one day at a time. Really push through it. It's that's the hardest part, is the days drag on when you're not running, especially when I was not running. It just felt like every day was 70 hours long, and so really like get through that first part and try to find little positives in everything. Like, again, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. And the second I got injured, it was on to like, what can I do next, right? Like getting excited for 10 minutes on the bike, or 10 minutes in the pool. Like really getting excited to just like attack every part of your recovery that you can, because you'll be better for it in the end. I mean, you will learn something from it. I remember sitting at my house thinking like, I don't know what I'm going to learn from this. This is the dumbest thing ever. I hate being injured, but man, if you attack every day and just every little thing, every day you're getting better, find positives in it, like you're going to be a way better off runner from it. I mean, some of the best runners, like mentally, I know that have just like tough dudes have been injured a ton just because they've learned so much from it, and they come out. Like sitting on the bike for 50 minutes is all mental toughness. Like I hate sitting on the bike. It is the worst thing ever. So you're going to come out better from it. Just take your time with it, find the positives, and attack every day with like the intentionality you would if you were running. So
Parker, thank you for the time. Glad you're healthy. Glad you're back. You're going to crush this year, and excited for it. And we'll have to get you and Ethan back on the podcast. Text me. Maybe you are now. Text me when you're about the point next season where you're confident you'll hand it to him, and we'll get you both on the podcast for the banter to start back up. So,
love it. Hey man,
what we got to do is I got to come to Flag, and we got to do an episode with all the boys, and that will be the special.
Electric. These guys are all characters. It'd be a really good episode for sure, man. It'd be awesome. So no, I'm already talking smack to Ethan. I'm gonna get him in a 15 one of these days. I'm telling him right now. I warned him. I'm warning you now. I'm warning everybody. I will beat him in a 15 again. It will happen. All right. I'm in his head. So
I love it. It's great not to claws on. Thanks, Parker.
Yeah. Thank you.